the brand tax question, plus what you'll see inside this plant. At CFMOTO's Hangzhou factory, a finished motorcycle can roll out every few minutes, and the whole trip from raw frame to a crated machine is roughly 24 to 30 hours of production time. That's the part people miss when they argue online about cheap bikes. At this speed, you don't survive on vibes, you survive on process. Now zoom out. This Hangzhou complex is massive. The way CFMOTO presents it, it's around 230 acres and about 1.5 million square feet under roof, split into 9 distinct sections with 6 specialized factories. They've got around 6,000 employees on site, and a lot of them live right here in on-campus apartments because this place runs like a small city with a schedule. So yeah, the bike's on the showroom floor and the specs look right. Power, weight, brakes, tech, but the price doesn't. One badge costs thousands more, and nobody says it out loud, but you feel it anyway. The brand tax. And if we're being honest, a big chunk of that tax is the made in Japan reputation. Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Suzuki. Those 4 basically defined what normal people think reliability is for the last 50 years. Start every time. Don't leak. Don't rattle apart. Don't need you to own a toolbox just to enjoy the thing. So the real question with CFMOTO isn't, can they build a bike? It's, can they build a bike with systems that get you close to that Japanese baseline? And do it at a price that makes riders go, wait, what am I actually paying for? So here's what we're doing today. We're going inside CFMOTO's Hangzhou manufacturing flow and following a motorcycle the way the factory follows it. From stamped parts and welded frames to a finished, tested, crated unit. Not marketing, process. 1. Factory logic, layout, flow, and why intelligent manufacturing matters. A factory tour can fool you if you don't know what you're looking at. Clean floors and a few robot arms don't mean much. The real question is whether the plant is built to prevent mistakes or built to hide them. Because a modern motorcycle is thousands of small decisions stacked together. Close to 2,000 pieces if you count every fastener, clip, and connector. One connector not fully seated, one bracket clocked wrong, one weld pulling geometry a hair, and later you feel it as vibration, leaks, weird wear, panels that never line up the same twice. So when CFMOTO says intelligent manufacturing, don't think buzzwords. Think boring consistency, on demand. And the reason they care is simple. If you want to close the gap with the Japanese giants, you can't rely on good enough. And to understand that system, you start with layout. In a well-run plant, everything moves like a river. Raw parts come in at one end, finished bikes leave at the other. The factory's job is to keep material moving forward without backtracking, because every extra move is another chance to scratch, mix up, or mishandle something. That's why you'll see the same core zones in almost every serious motorcycle facility. Receiving and inspection, storage and warehousing, sub-assembly, main assembly line, end-of-line checks, then shipping. And the first real step always looks kind of plain on camera. Pressing and forming body parts, stuff like brackets, covers, and shaped pieces that later become the tank area, fenders, and body panels, depending on the model. It's not glamorous, but it's where consistency starts. Because if the shape is off, everything after that turns into a fight. And here's the part most riders don't think about. The main line is not where quality begins. It's where quality gets exposed. Quality starts upstream, in sub-assemblies and kits. A harness section built on a jig, a front-end package that's pre-checked, a fastener kit that's counted and labeled. When the bike arrives at a station, the person there shouldn't be searching. They should be installing. Speed makes that non-negotiable. And this is where the Japanese Big Four have basically set the standard. Their lines are built around tight takt time, the pace the line has to hit, plus a don't pass problems forward mindset. You'll hear it called zero defect, but what it really means is simple. If something isn't right, the system forces the issue now, not later. That's also why a lot of plants run a central conveyor track. The bike moves station to station on a fixed pace, and the person at that spot gets a short window, think 80 to 90 seconds, to do their specific job, confirm it, and send it forward. It sounds stressful, but it's actually how you keep quality steady. You don't wing it because there isn't time to wing it. That's why Japanese-style lines obsess over stuff that looks boring on camera. Poka-yoke fixtures that physically stop you from installing the wrong part, sensors that confirm a connector is seated, gauges that won't let the next step happen until the current one passes, and the big one, andon-style escalation, where an operator can flag a problem fast instead of hiding it to keep the line moving. At that tempo, I think this is right, isn't a process. It's a gamble. So, intelligent manufacturing becomes three things: repeatable, measurable, traceable. Repeatable means the job is done the same way on a Tuesday night shift as it is on a Friday morning shift. Automated welding is the obvious example. Consistent geometry, consistent bead, consistent heat input, with humans programming, verifying, and inspecting. This is the Harley-style moment in any modern plant. Robot arms welding the main frame over and over the exact same way, because that's the skeleton. If the frame is right, everything else gets easier. If it's off, you chase it forever, with shims and close enough. Measurable means meets spec, not looks good. Fixtures, gauges, sensors, cameras, anything that confirms parts are seated and aligned in the moment. And traceable is what ties it together. Build records that let the factory walk backward through a problem without guessing. That's the logic of this place. Catch errors early when they're cheap, because late mistakes force two bad options: rework or ship it and hope. One more piece matters here too. CFMOTO has passed a milestone of producing over 1 million off-road vehicles. That kind of volume doesn't guarantee perfection, but it does force systems. You don't survive at scale on improvisation. So as we move deeper into this plant, keep one question in your head. Is the process designed to keep the line calm or to keep the cameras calm? 2. Digital twin torque tracking, building the bike with a paper trail. Once you've got the flow of the building in your head, here's where the tour starts to feel less like a factory and more like a controlled lab. Because there's a moment in motorcycle assembly where the factory stops trusting eyes and starts trusting records. CFMOTO calls it intelligent manufacturing. But on the line, it comes down to something simple. The bike gets an identity, and the work follows that identity like a shadow. A bare frame rolls in as anonymous metal. Early on, it gets a build record, a timeline of required steps that can't be mostly done. And that record matters for one reason. When something isn't right, you don't just want to know what failed, you want to know when it went off track. At each station, workers check in with the system. Parts get scanned, sub-assemblies get confirmed, and the tools themselves become witnesses. Because the most commonplace quality turns into a fight is torque. Every motorcycle is basically a stack of clamps. Axles, triple clamps, engine mounts, brake calipers, case bolts. If clamp load is wrong, the bike can rattle, leak, or wear parts in a way you only notice later. So on a modern line, torque can't be by feel. It has to be recorded. The tool is connected to the system knows which bike is in front of the station, and the tool logs the result. Torque, sometimes angle, pass, fail, or out of range. If it fails, the process forces a correction right there. And this is also how factories catch tool drift early, before almost in range becomes a pattern across dozens of bikes. Now let's put real time on the whole build. From raw frame to a finished, crated machine ready for sale, the process takes roughly 24 to 30 hours of actual production time. That's not 24 hours of one person hand-building a bike. It's a controlled sequence of stations, checks, and sub-assemblies moving in parallel. It's also where the supplier question gets real. A build record means you can prove what went on the bike, including components from global names riders already trust. Brembo for brakes, KYB for suspension, Bosch for electronics, and ABS, and Continental for tires and tech, depending on the model and market. So when you hear digital twin, don't picture a 3D animation. Picture a passport that follows the bike, collecting stamps at every checkpoint. Proof, not promises. 3. AGVs and automated logistics, keeping the line fed without chaos. If the digital twin is the bike's paperwork, this is the plant's heartbeat. Because a motorcycle doesn't get built when the first wrench turns. It gets built when the right parts show up at the right station, in the right order, without anyone improvising. Think of logistics like a vascular system. If the flow is clean, the line stays calm. If it's messy, everything downstream starts making bad decisions. And this is another spot where Japanese manufacturing set the bar. Just-in-time and Kanban, a pull system, means parts show up because the line asks for them. Done right, you get less clutter and fewer mix-ups. Done wrong, the line starves. A modern street bike still has a crazy parts count. Fasteners, clips, connectors, brackets, spacers, hoses, sensors, harness legs. Miss one clip, spacer or connector revision. And the line either stops, or somebody makes a decision they shouldn't have to make. So in a high-control plant, the warehouse isn't just storage, it's a traffic control tower. Parts come in, get checked, labeled, and staged by model and build window. Big components move on dedicated racks. Small parts come as kits, pre-counted, pre-labeled, built for that station's exact job, so nobody is grabbing a bolt that looks right under time pressure. And then there's sequencing. Parts delivered in the same order the bikes arrive, so multiple trims and colors don't turn the line into a guessing game. This is where you'll see AGVs, automated guided vehicles. Driverless carts running fixed routes, carrying racks, bins, and kits to line-side drop zones. Quiet, predictable, boring, which is exactly what you want. What CFMOTO is doing here is basically their version of that Japanese calm. You can call it Kanban, you can call it intelligent logistics, but the goal is the same. No surprises at the station. The station should be a place where you build, not a place where you hunt. And it supports the kind of output CFMOTO claims this facility can hit. Over 400 motorcycles per shift. That's roughly one finished unit every few minutes, when everything is flowing. You don't get that pace with forklifts playing bumper cars and workers hunting through mystery bins. A calm logistics system also gives people time to notice problems early. The wrong finish on a bolt, a warped bracket, a connector that looks like a new revision, and the authority to stop it before it becomes normal. Consistency over heroics. That's what keeps a fast line from becoming a sloppy one. 4. Paint plus finish quality, AI inspection, defect control, and what riders notice first. After logistics, welding, and torque, paint is where the factory stops being abstract and becomes personal. Because you don't need a scan tool to judge paint. You judge it in the parking lot, the first time sunlight hits the tank. And this is where the Made in Japan premium gets protected. Because a lot of that reputation isn't horsepower. It's the boring stuff you notice at 5 feet. Panels line up, colors match, clear coat looks deep. Hardware doesn't look like it came from a bargain bin. So yeah, the value bike label gets decided in your head right here. Not the price part, the psychological part. The little gut check where your brain goes, yeah, this feels legit. Or, okay, what did they cheap out on? Thin edges, dust included, panels that don't quite match. None of it strands you, but it changes how you trust the whole machine. In a controlled plant, paint isn't treated like a vibe. It's treated like a spec. The flow starts long before the sprayers. Cleaning, prep, controlled handling. Then a chain of gates. Repeatable coats, controlled curing time and temperature, and inspection that doesn't depend on whether someone's eyes are tired at the end of a shift. And this is where the factory adds something new. The eye. So when you hear AI inspection or machine vision, don't picture a robot artist. Picture consistent lighting and cameras scanning panels and plastics for runs, dust nibs, thin coverage at edges, and texture differences. Then comparing what's on the bike to what the system expects. Not just, is it shiny, but does it match the standard? This is also where it gets easy to compare philosophies. The Japanese approach has always been, don't ship the flaw and hope the customer never notices. Catch it while it's cheap, fix it while it's controllable, and don't let good enough become the bar. CFMOTO is trying to buy its way into that same mindset with camera-based consistency, because machines don't get tired and they don't let one slide to keep pace. Because paint is expensive to redo and brutal to ignore. If CFMOTO wants to challenge Japanese and European brands on perceived quality, this is one of the fastest places to do it, because riders feel finished quality before they feel anything else. And when paint passes, the bike finally starts looking like a product. 5. Racing as the ultimate R&D, Moto3, Dakar, and Race to Road pressure testing. Here's the twist with CFMOTO that doesn't show up in a clean factory shot. A lot of their, does this actually hold up? Testing doesn't happen in a quiet lab. It happens in racing. Programs like Moto3 and rally racing like Dakar are basically stress tests with a scoreboard. Heat, vibration, dust, impacts, long hours at high load, the stuff that finds weak castings, shaky connectors, bad sealing, and parts that loosen when nobody's looking. And that's the point. Racing forces fast feedback. A problem shows up, you log it, you fix it, and you try again. That loop is brutal, but it's also how you speed up learning. And that's how you start closing the gap with Japanese giants who've had decades of real-world reliability baked into their designs. When CFMOTO talks about intelligent manufacturing, racing is the other half of it. The place ideas get punished before they ever reach the assembly line. Conclusion: the proof stack plus what to watch next. If you take one thing from this factory walkthrough, it's that modern quality is a stack of proof: planning, parts control, logged torque, and finish checks you can't talk your way around. If you want the next layer of this story, watch the reliability and teardown video after this. And tell me in the comments, which brand's factory should we step into next?